I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker.
What would you say has been the major standout for you over the course of 2025, from your perspective?
One of the things that I've been trying to do, especially over the last few months, is really listen to where people are at in the province. And what I've noticed since the election in particular is people's focus and their fear, I guess, has been around what is essentially a jobs disaster, a crisis that I think is unfolding in many parts of the province, as well as, the just fact that everything is so expensive, like the affordability issues. That is what I've been hearing from people. And so for me, it's been a real exercise in listening and bringing increasingly that voice and frankly, the frustration that people are feeling into the work that I do here in the legislature. Because I always see myself as the person who gets to ask the questions that everybody else wishes they could ask.
You mentioned jobs first and foremost, and that's what you're hearing. But you've made a point of saying the Ford government needs to step forward and make sure that it doesn't happen, or at least is there for workers. So is there a way for a government to do that at this point?
A lot of people put their trust in Doug Ford because he said, I'm gonna save those jobs, right? But instead what we've seen is time after time, people are getting their layoff notices, and there's been some big ones. 3,000 people in Brampton at Stellantis, and 1,200 at Ingersoll, and now 1,000 people laid off in a not very big town like Sault Ste. Marie. 1,000 people going to be looking for jobs up there. And time and again, the Premier kind of talks about this like these are necessary sacrifices. Well, those are people, and we cannot afford to lose those jobs. I mean, there have been some good things, like we put forward our Buy Ontario First strategy months and months ago. It took the government almost a year to come up with something like that. And I don't know what took them so long. I think there's a lot of things they could have done. I think if you're going to be giving out $100 million to a company like Algoma Steel, you should attach a few conditions to those dollars. These are not Doug Ford's. This is not his bank account. This is the people's money, and they need it spent in a way that is going to produce and save the jobs that they rely on.
You've spent a lot of time trying to focus on the Skills Development Fund and what is happening with that. Why is it that you feel the need to make that the top priority at this point? What
really struck me this time, and I think the reason I've just kept going at it, is the just brazen disregard for or failure to take account, right? The brazen lack of accountability of this minister and this premier. I mean, especially at a moment like this, when people are really in need of a government that is focused on them, the fact that that would be their priority, that they would frankly waste $2.5 billion of money that should go to training, a really important fund, I just can't get over that. It really gets my goat. There's nothing that drives me crazier than that kind of corruption. I think it's outrageous, and I think it tells.
And that's a word you used.
Yes.
And ended up getting kicked out of the chamber as a result of that. Yeah. Was that going a little too far at that point?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's words you're not supposed to say in the chamber, which I can say here to you. Corruption is one of them. Look, I called it corruption. I think that's what it is. And I didn't take back that word, and so I had to be removed from the legislature. I stand by it. I absolutely stand by it, and I think it's outrageous that the government and that I can't believe that this minister is still sitting there. I think Doug Ford should be ashamed of himself. He should fire that minister.
When you faced your leadership review, you passed that test, but you also came forward and said there was actually going to be a shift.
Yes.
You were going to be different, the party was going to be different. How has that changed since?
I've been frustrated that I don't feel like the government is actually interested in hearing where people are really at and what the real solutions are. They're just very focused on themselves and people like them, their friends, insiders. So I think that a lot of what you're seeing is I've just become much more direct about it. I'm not wasting time with this. I'm not trying to find nice ways to put it. I'm much more interested in just calling things what they are.